Hello my friends, welcome back to the Quack House. My name is Anna and I am the maker and creator behind Quack House Crochet. If you are new here, we're so happy to have you, and if you are a return subscriber, viewer, welcome back to your place in the flock, right? It's been a minute. It has been a minute, and it is like, I say the butt crack of dawn. It's not really, and this isn't even really like what time I normally wake up, but it's like 6:30 in the morning on Tuesday. I usually release videos on Tuesday, and let me just tell you guys, it's been a week. It's been a whole 2 weeks, all right? There's been a lot happening. Life and crochet have just been having at it, and at this point, I don't know who's gonna win. I don't know who's gonna win. So this video is going to be probably a quick one. It's probably going to be very unpolished, and I hope you will stay with me throughout the shenanigans, because I really wanted to get something out to y'all and make sure that I was, you know, uploading and updating and keeping track of all the things, or just like staying up to date with all of the things. And I figured, instead of trying to recap and polish and make this even more difficult for myself, where I felt like I was digging myself even deeper into the trenches, I was just gonna come to you as is. Sparkling ice container in the background and all. All right, so first things first, last week was a week, man. It was a tough week. We just had so many things going on. We had issues with our vehicle, issues with our property manager, which is a whole thing. And then we also had some issues with securing childcare. So like I said, life was life, and it was doing its thing, and it was winning. It was absolutely winning. But that is why I ended up being kind of behind with everything, including Crochet Relay, including updating you on the, what do you call this, like the release of Toots and Bubs and how that has been going, and even just on market prep. So I'm going to try and break down all of those things in this video as much as I can. So let's talk market. I had a market this past Saturday. It was the Tractor Supply Company Farmers Market weekend. I guess this is a national thing that they have. I don't know if this is the first time they've had it, but it was really cool. This came to me via the Instagram algorithm, and so essentially what it was they were just inviting small businesses, hand makers, local farmers, local artisans to come and sign up and be a vendor at a little pop-up event at their local Tractor Supply Company. We have 2 Tractor Supplies that were participating near us, one in our town and one in an adjacent town that's a little bit bigger. So I went ahead and signed up for that one. The deadline to sign up for that was August 28th. And I should mention, there's no booth fee. So this was absolutely free. I think this is just something Tractor Supply was doing to try and get some small businesses out there and get them some traffic, which was beautiful. So this is my first official event, or it was my first official event into my first official market season, and I'm kind of glad that this was the one, right? Because like I said, life was just all over the place, and it was small. It was a small one, and I liked that it was small. And when I say small, I mean there were 7 vendors and a food truck, and I was perfectly fine with that. Because for me, leading up to markets, I usually get really stressed with, I have to tag all the things, I have to inventory all the things, what colors do I have, what this, what that. And you know, the last couple of markets we went to in the summer, like, they weren't horrible, but they didn't, like, they weren't so great that I was out of a lot of my inventory. And so I felt comfortable going into it with what I had, and with like the few things I had made here and there for things like pattern tests, right? So that took off a lot of pressure, and I was really happy that this was a small event. That being said, I feel like this was a wildly successful event, and let me tell you why. we did decent on sales. We didn't do bad on sales, but we met some really, really incredible people, right? And for me, that was kind of the affirmation or the reaffirmation that, man, I love markets. I love everything they're about. I love meeting customers. I love meeting other vendors, and I love just being out and interacting and part of the community. And not just feeling like a little crochet yarn hoarding goblin. It's nice to like get out there and get the art out there. So I'm going to cut real quick to market morning and to what my booth looked like, and then I will come back and give you a recap. Good morning. Hi, my friends. It is, I can't believe it's already almost 6:30. It is 6:30 though on Saturday. I was going to say August, September 13th. And it is a market day for me. This is my first official market back in season. But it's also technically my first official market season. Don't mind that. You'll probably hear it several times depending on how long this intro is. As you can tell, this is not my usual background. We've been house sitting for my parents for the last 2 days while they go and enjoy anniversary shenanigans. And so it's super early. I did attempt to film this intro before the wild child was awake. That didn't go to plan. I also was, like just kind of straightening up. You know how it is, like you want to straighten up a little bit when you're house sitting to make sure that like things were in the same or better condition than when you first got here. And so I started straightening up, started doing a little dishes, doing a little laundry, and had the audacity to think to myself, you know what? I'm gonna have a hot cup of coffee today because I'm actually gonna sit down and be able to enjoy it. And then proceeded to be bombarded with, mommy, I want milk, mommy, I want this, mommy, I want that. And then on top of that, right, just my own brain saying like, oh, let me do this, oh, let me do that, let me do this, let me do that. So my coffee, though still warm, is no longer where it used to be. Today is I'm going into this market, I want to almost say not as prepared as I usually go into a market. There's the dog door again. But also just trying to be a little more relaxed. So, in a way, this was kind of like a no stakes market. It was just a nice little reintroduction. Like I said, it's hosted by the Tractor Supply Company, and it is a nationwide market. So if you're in the US and you have a Tractor Supply Co near you today, I mean, you're not going to be able to hear this now in time, but you may have one of these going on in your town. But it's definitely happening in my town. Truth be told, I don't know how well known this is being made. It is an ad that I found on Instagram. Like the algorithm suggested it to me and said, hey, you like markets, you do markets, you like to be a vendor, well, here's an event that's happening next to you. There was 0 booth fee, so absolutely no money in terms of like vendor fees being invested into this. And I have a lot of inventory. The last market I did was the one out in Maricopa, I believe. That was kind of a flop for me. And so not a flop, but it was just slower than or less business than I had anticipated it being. But we had a ton of inventory for that. And I have been making things since then, through pattern test or just, trying things out. So as I was sitting down yesterday and updating my square inventory, it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I made this. Oh yeah, I made that. Like there are a few things I had to add to the stock. And so I made sure to get that all done in preparation for today. But again, kind of not treating this low stakes, right? Because to me, it doesn't matter if you are selling out of your garage or selling, you know what I mean, in a cooperative or in a store. Like you want to put your best foot forward. And and so I definitely plan on doing that, but I also allowed myself a little bit of grace. I had my first ever YouTube live yesterday, and I had a few people show up to that, and it was so appreciated. But the reason I bring that up is because I had to do a live. I say had to, right? It's like nobody's really clocking me on this, but I hadn't uploaded, and so I wanted to do a live to kind of make up for that missed upload. So I spent time yesterday doing that, and I spent time yesterday enjoying my daughter, and I spent time yesterday kind of like nerding out a little bit because I get married in exactly a week. Like a week from today, there will be another ring on this finger. Anyway, I get married in a week, and so we have a very busy week coming up. I had a very chaotic week this past week. If you want more details of that, you can watch the re-recording of the live. And so you know what? Today is just going to be a good day. If I sell nothing, I lost nothing but time, which is valuable, but it will have been time well spent getting back out in my community and engaging with customers and engaging with people. And if I make even $1, that's, I mean, you know, minus materials and goods and stuff, that's profit because I paid nothing to be here. So I'm going to enjoy my now less than lukewarm cup of coffee. And then I'm gonna do a few more things around the house, wake up the mister because the cars are already loaded, and then just be on my way and go set up. I'll see you then.
The firefly always keeping going to my eye.
Oh, silly firefly. Come here. All right. I don't know if y'all realize this. For you, it's been a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds of like video and me talking, but for me, it's 2 seconds of me sitting like this. I'm popping you back in. All right. So that was the market. I don't know if you could tell from the clips, but again, super small. I just kind of went in with a, you know what? This is my best right now, and I'm just gonna let it happen. I'm here for the vibes, right? And that being said, it like I said, not wildly successful, but I think it was a pretty good day. So the very first thing I sold was an All from Jade fidget caterpillar. That was really sweet. It was a mom and her little girl, and she was just like, look at this, baby, look at this. Like they were looking at all of the things. And I made sure to kind of point out which items were baby safe because she was under 3 years old for sure. Maybe 1, maybe 2, but definitely under 3. And in the end, they ended up getting a fidget caterpillar, and I threw in a little octo because I think they were kind of going back and forth between the octos. So I sold one of my fidget caterpillars. I sell those for $12. Guys, I sold a bat snuggler. It was so cute. The vendor next to us, they had a daughter, and she was older. I want to say she was maybe like anywhere between 8 to 12. Also a horrible judge of age. But she came over and she was looking at all the things and really like peeking through them, and then she left for a little bit, which is fine, right? That's what I expect. And she came back with mom, and mom was like, she needs help making a decision. And I was like, girl, same. If you want to make my decisions for me, please come hither, right? But I thought it was really sweet because they ended up choosing one of my little bat snugglers, and I actually loved how I had them set up. So I had 2. I had my albino bat and I had my black bat, which is part of what I made for my 8-hour what can I crochet in 8 hours challenge. And I had them both on my grid walls hanging upside down, and they got a lot of attention. People thought they were so cute. And as a matter of fact, when that one sold, I messaged Audrey from Oddball Crochet, who is the designer of that pattern, and I said, I just sold a bat snuggler. People love them and they're hanging upside down. And I took a little picture and I showed her how my bats were set up, and she's just such a sweetheart. But I'm sure she gets a million of those messages because her patterns are perfection. They're so cute. But anyway, sold a bat snuggler. had another little boy come in, and he was just the cutest because he wanted everything. What he really wanted was one of my huge Emporium dragons, the ones that are 125. And Mom rightfully was like, that's a lot, babe, right? And so I, you know, tried to show her like the little pocket dragons that I have from Avalon Crochet. I also have the little dragon like bookmark coaster pocket square from AR Serendipity Designs that I make, and that one is cute because it has a little finger loop, and so kids can treat it like a little finger puppet. Showed her to that because those were at $12 and $10 price points, but ultimately he decided to go with a hammerhead. That is a hammerhead by the Crochet Carpenter. We sold that one for 15 bucks, and then his mom ended up buying a small hanging plant that I have. And when I say small, I mean I made it in worsted weight yarn. I don't have any pictures of it, I don't think, but I have bigger ones that I've made, and those sold really well. And I had a few people say, hey, like, can you make them a little bit smaller? Because the big ones, I want to say, are like this, like the base of them is like this, and then of course with everything hanging, and then the hanging mechanism itself, right, it's bigger. But the new ones are with the worsted weight are maybe like this, and they're really nice for like if your state allows them hanging from a rear view mirror. So I made 3 of those to test the waters. I had been to 2 markets since that suggestion was made and never sold any of them. Sold out this market. They were a fan favorite, so they absolutely sold out, and I only had one of the bigger ones, and people were looking at that one as well, but ultimately kept deciding to go for the little ones. So note to self, make more hanging plants, but also note to everyone, all of us, myself included, sometimes, and I feel like this is true for everybody, the things that you think will sell really well, or the things that haven't sold really well, they just like need their day, and then they find an audience, and then all of a sudden you're sold out, right? So yeah, so sold a hammerhead to that little guy, and then his mom bought a hanging plant, and that was one sale, and I sold each of those for $15. Had a Pokeball sell. I sell my Pokeballs on the little keychains for $10. And then the sister of the young man who came and bought the Pokeball, so it was cute. He was actually in there with his mom and his dad, and they were looking through things and trying to figure out what they wanted. Well, the sister came back and she really wanted the little loaf kitten that I had, of course, Annie Haraway Arts classic, right? And Mom, while she was in the booth, had been looking at a cheeky turtle. So Dad actually came back, bought the loaf kitten for sister and the cheeky turtle for Mom. And I thought that was sweet. And again, cheeky turtles, one market I completely sold out of them, made a whole bunch of them, and then they just slowly sold, right? But so you just never know. Like I said, sold 2 more hanging plants, so I was completely sold out of those. I got an order from the vendor next to me for a custom Spider-Man for her son or grandson's birthday, and then my Louie, which is a pattern by TravelCrochet by Tracy over at TravelCrochet. That was my last sale of the day, and I realize now that I haven't gone through like timing with you. All of these sales happened between, so the event was from 9 to 2. All of these sales happened literally between like 10 and 1, right? So good spread of sales. Slow, manageable traffic, but a pretty good spread of sales. The Louie sale happened, so the wind was a thing at this market. It wasn't like one of those things where it was windy all day, but every once in a while there would be like a gust of wind that would just pick up, and so people's canopies were literally picking up. Of course, this was the event where I forgot my canopy weights and I was by myself, because Mr. Quackhouse was on duck duty, right? So we're all trying to hold down our tents and stuff like that. But so a lot of people, I think because it was slow, because it was so small, some people actually sold out. Like the salsa vendor who was there sold out. The lady who was making cheesecake, I think she just about sold out. But so some people packed up because they had sold out. Others, I think, just packed up because of the wind. But so the event was supposed to go until 2. By 1 o'clock, everyone was gone. It was just me and the food truck guy, right? But so as we were holding down our tent, a lady came over with, I believe it was her son, and they were looking around, and they saw Bluey. They saw little Bluey, and the lady looked at Bluey. She said, "How much is this?" Because my daughter is obsessed, and I said $20, and she was like, "Perfect." And she had $20, I think, in her hand, and she gave it to me. And she was telling her, I believe it was her son, as they walked away, like, she was like, "Good find, good find." And I love that. I absolutely love that. So to like break down into the specs, altogether I made a total of $91.87 on Square, because of course I collect sales tax and things like that. $65 in cash, so that was a total of $156.87. I'm looking at my notebook here. My fees for Square were about $4.68. I had 0 vendor fee, so before accounting for things like materials and goods and stuff like that, my total take home was $152.19. Plus I have a $40 commission for a Spider-Man. Plus there is a lady there, her name was Elizabeth, and she was selling cheesecakes. At one point she came around to all of the vendors, and she was giving like her little sample or personal size cheesecake items, and she was giving one to all of the vendors, and she saw the little empanadas that I made. That was a pattern by Crafty Guam. She saw the little empanadas, and she looked at me, she goes, "Is this an empanada?" I was like, yes, it is. And I was so excited that was the thing that she gravitated towards. She was like, "How much is this?" And I was like, "It's $10. She's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so cute." She was just like gushing over this empanada. And you know, she had given me this cheesecake, and I was like, "Take it, it's yours, have at it," right? She's like, "No." She was so sweet. And she kept sending like her family members over and stuff like that. I think she sent her brother or her brother-in-law over, and he was like eyeing my Emporium dragons. Those guys got a lot of love, like a lot of serious love, to the point where I almost thought I was going to sell one this time. I didn't, but that's totally okay. High price point, right? But so, you know, we had that interaction with Elizabeth. We exchanged business cards. Well, Sunday, the next day, she gives me a text, and she was like, "Hey," because I told her, like, I want to get some cheesecakes from you because my mother-in-law is coming to town. She's from New York because we're getting married, right? Oh, by the way, I'm getting married. And she was like, "Oh, do you have a wedding cake?" And I was like, no, it's gonna be very, very small. We're not doing all of the extras and stuff. Well, Sunday she texted me, and she was like, "I really feel like you should have a wedding cake. I really want to do this for you." And after much insisting that she absolutely didn't have to, we finally came to an agreement. She was like, "I'm gonna make you this small wedding cake because you gave me an empanada." I was like, "Girl, that was a $10 empanada." Right? But so she's gonna make us a little like 4-inch, like, you know, round cake that we can just like kind of cut, and just for like the symbolism of it. And I mean, of course we're gonna eat it, but and I ordered 3 more of the little individual cheesecakes from her, so that was so sweet. And again, just another reason why going to markets like this is so amazing, because you meet all these incredible people, and they're usually in the same community as you are, right? So that was my market. I think it was a good reintroduction to market season. Well, a good introduction to my first market season, but it was a good like reintroduction to markets for me. And that's where we are with that. All right. So we talked about markets. Let's talk about Crochet Roulette 2025. I am so sorry that I did not share makes last week. Like I said, it's just been crazy. I actually did record a short clip of what I had made, because I did participate. I did make 2 things. I made a Highland cow, and I made Coop the chicken. The cow pattern was from Crochet by Jenna, and the Coop the chicken pattern was from Madeline Mako. So I will insert a little clip here of me attempting to record something to show you all, and then failing miserably at having it evict my phone memory. So I made my farm animal, my brown farm animals for week 2. Week 3 was mushroom week. And full transparency, I made my weeks for week 3 Sunday night. So let me share. Isn't he so cute? I love how chunky he is. So this is, I think it's called Mushroom Boy by Dee Dee's Plushies. I'm sure those of you who have been in the crochet game for a minute are like well aware that this pattern has been out there. I love him. He's so cute and chunky. And I will say all of this works up really well. I love the way she attaches the legs. These are no-sew sitting legs. And I think the way she attached them was so good. Also, if you have made patterns before where you make 2 legs and then you kind of crochet them together, right, you'll know that there usually tends to be gapping, which is fine. And so a trick that I learned from Crochet Grove, and actually Kristen over at Cheerful Chaos Crafts just did a freaking wonderful video about crochet doll making, and she talks about this technique as well. But you know, there's a little technique that you can do where you decrease, where you do decreases closer to like where the leg meets the body, and that helps to eliminate some of those gaps. Well, this pattern had that built into the pattern, right? It wasn't like a, if you know this, you do it kind of thing. It was like, even if you didn't know it, you built it into the pattern. So that was great. This whole body is no sew. This little frill right here is surface crocheted, and I feel like I just had to have it. I also don't usually do blush, but I felt like this time I really wanted to do the blush. The only thing that gave me grief with this pattern was the actual mushroom cap. This was the only thing you have to sew on, and that's not a problem at all. But there's a technique she does to give it this little like bonnet beret look, which is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with her technique. It was just, you know, I was having difficulty because it was Sunday night and I was rushing and I was tired with trying to work into essentially what had been like left behind back loops, right? But I would absolutely make this pattern again. I want to make one with the red cap. Truth be told, I want to make them with all the caps. And this was Bernat blanket. So this white was baby Bernat blanket, and it is really soft actually. And this, of course, I don't know if you can tell, but this is the mystical Bernat blanket, and I just think this worked up so beautifully. It's very cottagecore to me, this color. I love him. I think he's so cute. I think he's gonna get a lot of attention at markets, and like I said, I want to make at least one more with the red cap. But I wanted to come back strong, right? Because first of all, you guys killed it with the mushrooms. Like every week it progressively gets so much cooler, and like some of the makes this week were art. I mean, fiber arts, yes, but we're like art. So I just step it up just a little bit, right? So I actually did a pattern that is not new to anybody, but is brand new to me that I have never made. It's the mushroom pops from Table and Canvas. I have never made these before, and I don't know why, because now I'm addicted. I followed the YouTube tutorial for this, which I normally don't really like. Like, I'm a written pattern, work at my own pace kind of girl. But I liked, not that there's anything wrong with any YouTube tutorials, it's just not my preferred style of crocheting unless it's something I can't wrap my head around. But I liked this YouTube tutorial. Now that I've done it a few times, right? And I say a few times, that I've done it twice, but now that I've done it a few times, because I absolutely want to make a million more of these because they're so quick and the payoff is just so satisfying. I could sit here all day. I want to make a bunch more of these, so I went onto Etsy to get ready to purchase the pattern, and it's like $1. It's like $1. So very happy to add that to my rotation. Here are my yellow mushroom makes for week 3. Okay, by now you all already know what the week 4 theme and color are, but I'll go ahead and pop those in. So there you have it, Pink Sea Life. I actually think that's a really good one. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I am already working on mine so that I don't run into this issue again, because again, this week is going to be insane for us. So in addition to all of the craziness that happened last week, I'm getting married this week. Today is Monday. I get married on Saturday. Oh no, today's Tuesday. Holy moly, today is Tuesday. I get married on Saturday. My mother-in-law is coming in tonight. My best friend, baby, and our Lou, who is also our officiant, are coming in on Thursday. So this house is gonna be crazy. And I wanted, which is why this video is gonna be so like bare bones, right? But yeah, that is what's happening this week. So I wanted to make sure I got those out, and then I've got week 4's make on the sidelines standing by. Last week, in fact, was so chaotic, and I didn't want to just not put out a video, that I decided to do my first ever live. If you missed that, I'm pretty sure it got posted on my YouTube channel somewhere, but that was a lot of fun. For the first like 5 or 10 minutes, I had random people, and it was funny because right, all these people were like popping in, and I was like, ooh. Well, it turns out that there were all these like scammers, or these people who thought I was some kind of model or cam girl. First of all, flattered, thank you. Also, absolutely not. I mean, I could, but that's not for anybody's benefit. And so Tracy from Travel Crochet popped in and saved me, and she was like, this is why you don't shoot in vertical. I was like, oh, that explains it. So thanks, Tracy. Tracy became my moderator, impromptu, voluntold style, and kicked out all of the people who were there for non-plush reasons. But so I did my first live. That was really exciting. My best friend was there. Some of my friends from the crochet roulette challenge were in there. A lot of wonderful people from Australia. Crafty Guam was in there. April from the Cozy Buckeye popped in, and you guys will see it. I about lost my mind. You couldn't have told me that Taylor Swift didn't walk into my damn live, because I was so excited. But on that live, I decided, kind of as a celebratory thing also for the release of Toots and Bubs, my Toots and Bubs pattern, that I was going to make a giant Toots. And I was really proud of myself for how far I was able to get, considering that I was talking and crocheting and trying to count and do those things at the same time. But I did not finish that. I did, however, take him to market. And by take him to market, I mean I took him to finish him. I'm in love. He's so huge. That's self-loving. Check him out. He takes up the whole frame almost. Can you even hear me from behind him? But yeah, so I made my giant Toots, and I made a cutesy little reel with him up on Instagram, and he's already sold. He's spoken for. He is spoken for, which I think is kind of incredible. I will say though that when I purchased the yarn to make this guy, I over purchased, because when you work with like the size 7 weight yarn, it tends to go really quickly. So I over purchased, so I actually have enough to make a second jumbo Toots. I may just have to repurchase red, which isn't such a big deal, because I think I might actually have enough jumbo red yarn, not the same kind, but the Sweet Snuggles version. I might actually have enough of it sitting in the sidelines over there. But I was so like, whoa, he got like, he sold like that, right? I was wondering, so the last time I checked, I think I was like excited because we had just hit 300 subscribers. We're almost, I want to say, to 350 now. So I was thinking, what if when we get to 500 subscribers, I do a Toots giveaway, a jumbo Toots giveaway. Would y'all be interested in that? Let me know. Let me know in the comments down below if you need a jumbo Toots. He's a support Toots. And when I say support, I'm not just talking about emotional support, which he is, but this is a whole lumbar support system right here. Mr. Quackhouse has already asked me to make 4 of these for his car. He wants these to be car pillows. I don't know how I feel about that, but he's already asked me for some. And his birthday is coming up, so hey, right? But yeah, that is Jumbo Toots, and you will be super happy to know I made 0 modifications to the pattern. All I did was use a size 7 yarn and a 9mm hook, and that is what I ended up with. Speaking of which, Toots and Bubs, that pattern released last Monday. Yeah, last Monday. I feel like it's been doing really well. I've made 21 sales of that pattern, which is probably not a lot in, like, you know, the super designers world, but for me, my first pattern sold 7, which I still thought was phenomenal, being like basically a nobody, right? 21! We've sold 21 Toots patterns. Yeah, so I'm just super glad that Toots and Bubs have been so well received. I really am excited to get started on the next pattern, which may or may not be candy. I'm thinking we'll take a break from the candy because there is something I have had on my mind for a long time that will be a little more complicated that I really want to try to execute, but we'll see. Right now the priority is going to be market prep because I now have been confirmed for 5, possibly 6 markets for between October, November, and December. So we've got to get moving. The pops have got to get popping. Got to get popping on them. Yeah, and that's it. I feel like there was more I wanted to share with y'all. I feel like there was probably more I could have included, but it's been 30 minutes, my viewfinder says, which means it is about 7 o'clock, and we have things to do. We have a whole house to get prepared for my wonderful mother-in-law. My child has a initial screening to possibly get into preschool. It's happening. So I want to get to that. But I really wanted to make sure that I got something filmed for you guys, and then this will get edited. And by edited, I mean I'll just pop in the little clips that I talked about during her nap, and you will get this later tonight. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for all the love during the live, all the love you've shown to Toots and Bubs, just for being here. I'm so incredibly excited for the possibilities and for the future of this channel and this business, and just honestly of meeting and working with all of you guys. I feel so incredibly blessed, and I pray blessings onto all of you as well. Yeah, just thank you so much. I hear little feet. Thank you for being part of my flock. Next time I see you, I'll be married. Bye.